let's think outside the box for a minute. Now, I've just completed the 20th day of my daily videos, my daily uploads to the platform of YouTube. And it made me think how important it is to think outside of the box. Now, I'm going to tell you why. On one of my videos, I had some digital marketer, or someone who calls himself a digital marketer, commenting about how there was a whole bunch of comments, right? And typically what I do if someone comments on my videos, especially if it's someone commenting advice, and for those of you who haven't seen my previous video where I talk about who is qualified to give you advice, I typically, especially if it's YouTube advice, I typically go and check out the person's YouTube channel. Now, again, don't judge a book by its cover. I believe in that principle. So I'm not necessarily making my judgments based off of that. But I find it interesting in this world when someone is positioning themselves in an avenue to present as though they desire to help you, but the way that they position their comments are in a way that seem more like they desire to harm you, right? And I get it. Like, a lot of people have been taught in this limited mindset kind of world to think how to create the big gap between where you're at and where you want to be, so you feel like you need their help to get to where you want to be. And I get that. And I'm not saying any of this relates necessarily to this individual. I'm just sharing the context and laying the foundation so we can get the most value out of this conversation. So let's jump back in, right? If we were to think outside of the box for a minute, would we appreciate that things that are going to move the needle in a way that we haven't yet moved the needle are most likely going to have to look like things we've never done because we've failed to move the needle in the way we desire to move the needle? All right. Now, that sounded a little bit like what Dr. Myron Golden would have called a word salad. So let's unpack that a little bit. I've been thinking about how we could think outside of the box a bit more. And I've been thinking about some of the times in my life where I've most effectively thought outside of the box and the payoff and the reward and the value that I've received as a result of that. And one of those times is this right now. It's literally daily recording and uploading videos to this platform. And one of the things I'm finding is that so far anyway, some of the people that are commenting about how they can help, I assume anyway, how they can help these videos reach a broader audience, okay? So in terms of that little comment narrative that I spoke about earlier, you know, this particular person spoke about how the video is talking about multiple topics. The video has no thumbnail. The video, like, several different things that he pinpointed, right? Which, interestingly enough, several of the aspects of the several things he mentioned were things that have been done purposefully. But again, nonetheless, I digress. So I went and had a look on said person's YouTube channel and saw that he has no subscribers, saw that he has no video uploads, saw that he has no views as a result of no subscribers, right? And not in my attempt to be rude, but in my attempt to provide clarification in that conversation, I then responded to the comment and shared, thank you ever so much, because I am grateful that anyone takes a moment to even comment anything. Thank you ever so much for your feedback. And I noticed that you have 0 videos uploaded, 0 views on those videos, and, you know, whatever, 0 subscribers, whatever, right? And I shared that to assist that individual to recognize that there's a way you approach people. You know, there's a way you approach people. It doesn't matter whether you're in the US of A, the UK, Australasia, or in Asia, or in Mama Africa. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. There's a way you approach people that is going to cause those people to embrace you with open arms. You know, it's interesting because we have the 5 on our hand, right? And if we open up that 5 and we do this, for example, someone might give you 5, a high 5, right? So they're giving you because you position yourself to get, right? Which is interesting, right? It's the same. We got 5 on the hand, right? And in the UK culture, if you put your hand out like this, right, someone's going to give you a hand to shake oftentimes, right? So they're giving you because you've postured and positioned yourself to get, right? Now, the reason this is interesting is because the same can happen, obviously, with a low 5, high 5, etc. So I say this because it's the same 5 on the hand that if you clench closed, like, unless someone's going to give you like the respect, the pound, the spud, whatever you call it, wherever you're from, right? Unless someone's going to give you that dap, like a closed fist can't receive anything. A closed fist isn't going to get the high five. A closed fist isn't going to get the shake. A closed fist isn't going to get, because a closed fist isn't positioned to give. And I share this because I want us to think outside of the box. And I'm understanding, for you to think outside of the box deeply, you have to start to understand how some of the things we do when we haven't thought outside of the box have mispositioned you to be able to receive from outside of the box. And this is why I wanted to go through this. So the way in which I was virtually approached, okay, on the YouTube video comments that I was just mentioning, didn't sit well with me from a perspective of, oh, wow, I really want to learn from this person, or, oh, wow, like this person has some value for me. This person didn't speak about the value they had to offer. This person didn't speak about how they could help, but yet this person is attempting to solicit or sell in some way without being able to serve. And this is like a masterclass in the comments of one of my YouTube videos on why so many people don't receive what they require to receive, even though they spend all of their time thinking they should receive what they believe they need. It's because you haven't spent enough time thinking outside of the box. And sometimes we would do well to take a step back and just really consider the landscape of life and ask ourselves, how do I need to position myself in order for me to get more wealth? And the thing that's super interesting about that, one of the things I've discovered, is it's not about you thinking about you. Like, even as I'm saying this, I'm realizing I'm going to probably have to do another video. It might be my video tomorrow, where I talk about it's not about the money. Just a whole conceptual idea around it's not about the money. And I get it. Like, lots of people make that statement, and some people think it's even to a degree that is cliche when people say it's not about the money. But we would do well to really dig deep and take survey, audit, or stock of those who are achieving the kind of things we desire to be achieving. And I get it. Like, in some areas and in some lanes of our lives, there's going to be aspects where we're pioneering. So there isn't anyone who's already doing that. And I get that, right? However, as King Solomon said in the Bible, there's nothing new under the sun. So just to make it simple, there's nothing new under the sun. There's someone doing what you desire to be doing in terms of your marriage out there already. There's someone doing what you desire to be doing in terms of your health out there already. There's someone doing what you desire to be doing in terms of your wealth out there already. And the only question you have to ask yourself is, have you done the due diligence? Have you done the right amount of asking, seeking, and knocking, the ask formula, in order to find them, in order to assign them, all right? Or in order to align with them, okay? Because when you've done that, what happens is everything else becomes simpler, because it's easier to look outside the box, think outside the box, see outside the box when you are connecting with those outside of your box. And what we often do as the human race, what we often do as human beings, what we often do as people, is we often get stuck in a box, allow that box to get locked, and then wonder why we can't see that our thinking outside of the box is actually thinking from within the box. And by virtue of the fact that our thinking outside the box is thinking from within the box, we're actually only thinking as far as the box. So we're locked in the box. Okay? And as I say this, right, I'm looking at my kind of Pomodoro, I hope I'm saying that right, a Pomodoro, I believe it's Pomodoro, my Pomodoro timers, right? So I've got a number of these. This is my red one, okay? And basically it's got multiple different times on it, 60 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and hopefully everybody knows how these work. If you don't, the way this works is it takes batteries, and effectively I can set the alarm inside of it on high or on low, and if I turn it on a particular side, the number that's at the top of that side is the number of the timer that runs. So if I want to do 60 minutes of deep work, I'll just put 60 minutes up. It will run for 60 minutes, and after 60 minutes, it will alarm. And then if I want to take a 30-minute break, I'll turn 30 up or 15 up if it's a 15-minute break, and then it will run for that alarm and then turn it off. But the reason why I'm taking these Pomodoro like boxes and showing you is because the time is set based on the side I put it on. So there's the very same way that these boxes have their programming locked in is the very same way that some of us have our programming locked in. And this is why it's so important to every now and then, at least once, I don't want to say once in your lifetime, because it needs to happen so much more often. Like, I know that I do things like plan the year ahead, right? Usually around October of the year I'm in. And so many other things like that, the journaling, the daily journaling, etc., the daily devotion in the Bible. Like it is extremely valuable for us to do activities that allow us to think outside of the box. Why? Because it's so easy, like the Pomodoro timers that I have in my hand, with this white one, for example, to be pre-programmed to specific programming. And when we're turning on certain sides, thinking we're thinking differently, thinking we're thinking outside the box, but really we're thinking from our programming, which we've been programmed with from inside of the box. And it's about making a change. Like, another example of this, very similar, is just the power of the Rubik's Cube, okay? Similar to the Rubik's Cube, like, the Rubik's Cube can be muddled up. It can be completely jumbled up. And like this one, you can see is solved, right? But whilst jumbled up, life is like confusion. Life doesn't feel clear. It feels like everything's a puzzle. Every time you try to get a clear picture of your finances or your wealth or your health, it feels like it's a complete puzzle. But here's the thing that's super powerful. Once you solve the Rubik's Cube, all of the faces, all 6 faces, now feel clear. But guess what? As clear as they are, you're still just the Rubik's Cube. You haven't taken a moment to think outside of the Rubik's Cube. You haven't equipped yourself to think beyond the Rubik's Cube. Now, here's the thing that's powerful. In order to solve a Rubik's Cube, typically there has to be an external hand. There has to be the hand of the man, right? I have to be, applying the algorithms, like twisting the twisting in and twisting out the combinations that I believe are going to assist me to succeed. But as I'm doing all of that, I'm actually the outside of the box. I'm actually it's the outside of the box that is contorting the box to become a clearer, crisper box. And what would happen if we started doing that with our life? What would happen if we started realizing that we need someone to work on us from outside of us, to align us, to assign us, to figure out our Rubik's Cube for us, so that we can get to a place where our Rubik's Cube is super clear and we start seeing things clear. We start seeing the dimensions in our life clearer. The health, the wealth, the relationships, the leadership, the spirituality, all of the things that are important to us, we start seeing clearer, so that we can start to grow beyond our existing cube. Now, that doesn't happen for any of us until we start to think outside of the box. And this activity of recording these videos is an endeavor of me thinking outside of the box. It's an aspect of me thinking outside of the box. It's me saying, Samuel, you've done this and you've done that, and that's been of value in this way and that's been of value in that. But however, in order to bless the next generation, in order to bless maybe some people in your current generation, like, put the value on wax. Go out of your way and share with people the facts. Like, tell people what the secrets are, the codes are, the algorithms that allowed you to produce the things you produce, but more importantly, that you're going to now use to produce what you're about to produce. Okay? Because the one thing you don't want to do is achieve a level of value and success and look back and say, I wish I documented that journey. And the only way you can understand that that's one thing you don't want to do is if you think outside of the box, from the box that currently is around you. We have to place ourselves in new places, in new spaces, so we can look back and realize what's going to be of the highest value in the current places we're in. And this is what the endeavor and activity of thinking outside of the box is all about. So let's think outside of the box. I want you to take a moment and think about what your financial situation could be like if you received the algorithm, the cheat code, the combination, okay? If you received the blueprint to your finances. So if you received a blueprint that would allow your finances in the next 30 days, in the next 60 days, in the next 90 days, to radically transform and no longer be your current norm, but start to be something which in a brand new way it would perform, okay? And you pick the number, okay? And here's the homework assignment, right? Everybody just write your number in the comments, okay? Whatever your number is, but just pick the number that if you had the algorithm, the financial algorithm, every single month would be your number coming in, okay? Whether that's £21,000 a month, whether that's £210,000 a month, whether that's £2.1 million a month, right? Just pick your number. And what I want you to do now, here's the thinking outside of the box activity, right? I get that first task might be hard for you because that first task, for some people, is a think outside the box activity on its own, okay? But just expand yourself to there. The Bible talks about expanding your territory and enlarging your coast, okay? So expand your thinking for a moment to the answer to the question, if I was given the financial blueprint to radically transform my finances in the next 30, 60, or 90 days, what would be the figure that for me, I would have said to myself that that's what just happened. I literally just had my finances transformed, okay? So you pick your figure. Now, let's say your figure, let's say you're being super bold and bodacious, right? Let's say your figure's £15,000 a month, okay? Let's start small. So if your figure's £15,000 a month, what I want you to do now, here's the thinking outside of the box part. I want you to ask yourself 3 questions, okay? The first question is, who am I now? And I don't mean who am I now from where you are, but I mean who am I now from that predicament, from that position, from that placement? Who am I now? Okay, who am I now? The second question I want you to ask yourself is, how has this helped? Okay, how has that new level of financial transformation shifted your potential destination? How has it helped? What has that done for you? What could that do for you? Okay, so who am I now? How has this helped? Here's the third question. The third question is, now what? Okay, and the now what question is more from the essence or element of, what do I do now? So now what? What do I do now? Now that I'm generating £15,000 every single month because I received the financial blueprint to transform my finances. What do I do now? I want you to really take some time. If you're like me, if you journal, break out your pen, break out your journal and journal that. Journal those 3 questions. Journal, the first part of the framework, the transformation, the financial transformation, and just flow. Like, let yourself flow into those dimensions of what that feels like for you outside of the box, because that's outside of the box thinking for you. Now, this is not me saying now go on a relentless pursuit to generate £15,000 a month or £150,000 a month or £1.5 million a month. That's not what this is about. This is about the expansion of the thinking. This is about the thinking outside of the box so you can get to a place where you understand the potential available to you once you've practiced performing at a peak level. Now, we're using finances just because money is an easy thing to measure, okay? It would be a bit more difficult, I would assume, for us to measure health in the same way in this rhetoric. So that's the reason why we're using money. But that's what I want you to do. I want you to journal. I want you to get down. I want you to focus into the deep work of, okay, let me think outside of the box. What would happen if over the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, my finances radically transformed because I was given a financial blueprint that I followed to a T and it worked for me? Then straight after that, ask myself these 3 questions, okay? And I want you to journal that and I want you to keep that. If you feel like sharing that in the comments, you can share that in the comments with the number as well. And that can be a clarion call, right? Just to the literal atmosphere that you're about this. Okay. That's for my brave hearts, my true warriors. You can throw that in there. Now, why is this so important? The reason this is so important is because this is exercising the muscle that you will need to think outside of the box. And that is one of the most crucial muscles in order for you to start generating more revenue. That's one of the most crucial muscles in order for you to start generating more health, more wealth, and more successful relationships. Now, Samuel, how do you know that? Well, the reason I know that is because most people who don't have successful relationships for two main reasons. One is they don't proactively create more relationships or new relationships. And secondly, the relationships they currently have, they don't effectively nurture those relationships. Okay. And that's just basic maths. If you think about it, if I want to have more effective and successful relationships, I would have to nurture, so improve basically the current relationships I have, and or create new relationships, and then go back to rule number one, nurture those relationships as well. Most people don't do that, okay? And the reason they don't do that is because they're not thinking outside of the box. They're trapped in a box of relationships, sometimes in a geographical box, a box of location, where they're saying to themselves that it's not worth going to that new place. It's not worth having the conversation with that new person. It's not worth expanding their territory and enlarging their coast. Hold on a minute, we're back to that conceptual idea again. Yes, or biblical promise, more importantly, okay? So in the world of relationships, a lot of the time, the hindrance to having a growth mindset in that area is simply a fear. It's a fear of the unknown. It's a fear of what would happen if I speak to this person. What would happen if that person rejects me? Okay. So that's relationships. But the same thing happens in health. A lot of people don't take the time to ask themselves, what would happen if I did the 75 hard, for example, okay? And for those of you who don't know what 75 hard is, 75 hard is it's kind of like a holistic personal development training program, which has been super popularized over the last, let's say, 5 years from my awareness, where basically for 75 days straight, you do certain things every single day, like read 10 pages of a book, make sure you get 12,000 steps in, and so forth and so forth and so forth. Work out twice a day, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So why would someone not do something like 75 hard? I can tell you why, because they haven't thought outside the box. They haven't asked themselves, what is the potential possible transformation that they could receive in 75 days from following this this specific process? So these are some of the questions these are some of the examples that help us see the power and the potential of thinking outside of the box. And the reason I wanted to think outside of the box with you in this way is to give you an opportunity before I do some of the videos I'm thinking about doing in the future, where I'm going to be sharing specific techniques, specific tactics, specific tools to create consistent and colossal cash flow way faster than you have done in your life previously. I want to give you an opportunity to think outside of the box about that first. I want to give you an opportunity for you to be able to articulate, whether it's even just mentally, visually, or again, if you're journaling, like in your literal journal, what that's going to look like, what that might look like, what that will have as an impact on you, what that might assist you and equip you to be able to do. Okay. Now, I said all that, and I'm now going to close with this. Regardless of whether you go on a focused pursuit or any other kind of pursuit to produce what God really wants from you in terms of your outcomes, one of the things I think is super important, if you engage in this activity to think outside of the box, is to give yourself grace. Give yourself grace, because some of the most powerful things that happen to our life, some of the most powerful things that happen to us in life, there I go again, thinking faster than I can speak. Some of the most powerful things that happen to us in our life effectively happen in an instant. Okay? Now, they don't happen in an instant because we prepare for them that instant. A lot of the time they happen in an instant because we've prepared for them for a lifetime. But some of the most pertinent and powerful things that do occur for us happen in an instant. You know, that day you meet that special somebody and it turns from never knowing that person, to having a conversation with that person, to spending the rest of your life with that person. Like that conversation that sparked happened in an instant, even though you were probably so prepared for that conversation because your whole life, that moment where you met that person was just destined to happen from the pre-preparation. Okay, so some of the most powerful things, some of the most pertinent things that happen in our life happen in an instant. And once we understand that, that's where we can start to understand that thinking outside of the box is extremely rich, it's extremely rewarding, it's extremely necessary. However, give yourself grace, because the things that you may see ahead of you, you might think they need to come tomorrow. You might think they need to come next week. But when they're ready to come, they can come in an instant. And I think it's super important to remember that as we go through this journey. So if you're doing the homework, let me know in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Remember, small keys open up big doors. Sammy I Can Win is signing out. Good day. God bless. Let's go.